All right, get ready for some schizo. Here we go. You see the title? We're just going to jump right into it. I listened to Vosh in his 40-minute cope of the situation in the United States today, talking about the fascism of the Republican Party. He talked about basically my arguments, being a debate bro, that's what he's going to talk about. Basically he talked about arming yourself. He was talking about, coming up with their arguments and being able to laugh at your opposition, working within the system, and basically organizing. There are other things as well, but that's what I got from it. All pitiful nonsense. And I'll tell you why. Because most lefties today, at least the more mainstream ones, will ultimately support what the government does. They talk down to ordinary people. They don't care about ordinary people. You had Vosh, of course, cowardly trying to speak and say, you need to talk to moderate Republicans and see if you can convert them. He didn't talk about people of faith, generally speaking, because, of course, he is a, die-in-the-wool atheist. Absolutely, completely. Leftism has always been based, I would argue, on, and I know you could go ahead and make that, you can go ahead and make that cut. Go ahead, somebody, and you can make your joke. That's fine. But anyway, left-wing ideas are based on hatred of religion. It used to be more of a, and maybe one day I'll read him, but I'll probably won't be anytime soon. The works of people like, say, I'm trying to think of his name now, Feuerbach. And sort of we just need to reform religion, or, a Protestant work ethic, or whichever you want to say. That's Max Weber, but still. But nowadays we have something that was, the term that was coined under the Bolsheviks, militant atheism. Destruction of churches, the killing of priests, etc., etc. We saw this occur in the Soviet Union, and then we saw it in Spain. And of course, I know what people are going to say. Oh, but the Protestant churches weren't destroyed in Spain. It was only the Catholic churches, because they were so corrupt and they were all pedos and stuff like that. Blah, they deserve to be destroyed. Did those nuns do anything? And they'll make their excuses. They will make their excuses, and they will say, oh, but they were part of the system. Why did that nun have to be dug up? And that photo, and they'll always defend it. I'm going real schizo. I warned up front, but we're going there. Without faith in God, or Allah, or Buddha, whichever, I'm not going to be judgmental. I'm more of a Christian. At least I try to be. Without faith, what do you have? Your science can go ahead and preach what it wants. Your studies and your statistics and data, the Voshites, of course, they love to bring up their science and their data. Of course, if it fits with their narrative. If it's something that's outside of that narrative, they'll just say, oh, well, that's ridiculous, or, oh, well, you are a legitimate scientist, but this is just, this paper isn't very good. So they have their own views on these things. I can go into my own personal issues, but you know what? This is neither the time nor the place. I will just say is that I've had a crisis of faith, and I'm trying to work my way through it. But beyond that, that's all I'm going to discuss. The people like Vosh, who talk about mud democracy, they talk about, gun ownership, but I'm not a prepper. leaving the country, all that sort of thing. It's all cowardice. It really is. It's cowardice at the end of the day. Join the DSA, he says, or whichever. It's cowardice. These folks have no faith in the system because, as I said, left-wing ideas in general are based on atheistic views and on must science and we can all work together. Of course, it's nonsense, of course. Because ultimately, many times, you'll see, when Stalin came in, an ex-priest, you had much more social conservatism that came about. That's a whole other story. There are plenty of folks who can give lip service to Marxist ideas. They can give lip service to left-wing ideas. And they can say, yeah, we want a 4-day work week. Or, yeah, you want all these sorts of things. But they don't really believe those things. I mean, they'll still have you work overtime, this and that, and still will say capitalist ideas. Like I said, you realize the more you learn about politics, in my opinion, is that ideas are fluid and they go back and forth. And of course, people will think, oh, we'll thank the socialists for all these things and whatnot. It's like Catholics believed a certain, smaller work week as well to a point and everything else. But, and of course, they'll talk about armed insurrections and shooting and all that. Like I said, I'm still cautious and I'm still leery of it. I think that the United States is at a very difficult time. At the job that I'm at currently, which is in low-income housing, I'm just going to say this. It's not pretty. Recent HVAC company I applied at, they're hurting for folks. A lot of folks are retiring, and there's just a brain drain that is occurring. And there's going to be a lot of folks who are just going to have to get their ass kicked in, me included. They're going to have to get hurt and learn the same lessons that the old timers did to hopefully be as good. And I think that's what's showing. And this kind of permeates the whole doomerist sort of idea. But I think at the end of the day, here's what I'm going to say beyond anything else is that what you see before you is temporary. The world here can disappear in the sands of time. And I try to remember that. Sometimes I get caught up in the materialist sort of world, but you realize that this is all temporary. And when you think like that, and you leave it in God's hands, it's a lot easier. That's what I'm trying to do. I spent many a night worrying, making sure that I did everything right. And I will, and you should do that to a point. Not the sleepless nights, but be concerned that you did all you could. But having a strong faith. In faith in something that you cannot see, you cannot touch, but something you sense. Many, like I say, you can go into the whole does God exist argument or whichever. Those arguments don't mean much to me. Because when you don't have anything else and when you feel that the world is crashing down around you, it's natural to go to religion. Because this world does not have all the answers, and for all the tough talk that people like Vosh will say is that ultimately they will still fall back on just laugh at the people. Laugh at the goofy goobers over there. It's like, does that work with bullies? I mean, does that, when the bully laughs at you, you think that people don't become school shooters or something like that because of it? Because, they're not laughing anymore, are they? That sort of mentality. I don't advocate anything. Please don't do anything awful. Say that for your own good. not for mine. It's also a bit of CYA for me. But anyway, my point is this. Is lefties in general will never succeed. They just want power. And they just want to be able to make you miserable. Of course, they'll say the same thing, is that, oh, well, conservatives want to make you miserable. They want you to hate your life, or they want you to, who knows. But what I will say is this, is that they just want to be in power. And and ultimately, it's, you can have it the simple way if they just want to diddle kids or whatever, but that's part of it. But it's also, they just want to have power, and they want to be able to live out their debauchery. They want to be able to drink without anyone telling them what to do. They should be able to sleep with who they want. And that's their mindset. That's why they want power. How dare you be a prude to me? And all this sort. That's really what it is. And they think that everyone should just be able to live their own lives and just live it out and party it up. The world doesn't work that way. And I think it would be disgusting if it did. When you walk through this low-income housing, and you see a child that can walk around, that can walk on his own 2 feet, naked, you say to yourself, oh my God, what? And the mother's just laying on the bed, just, oh, Jesus wept. That's as much as I'm going to explain, or the dirty apartments, oh, Jesus wept. That's all I can say to that. Is absolutely filthy. But what I will say is, I'm going to try to, let's focus back in again. Schizo, focusing back in. That's the whole point of these videos. Is schizo talk, schizo ramblings, center it, schizo rambling. Schizo focus, schizo rambling focus. That's going to be, like I say, I should, if I ever did the, where you can clip out sections on YouTube, schizo rambling focus, schizo rambling, that's how it would look. But anyway, let's wrap this up. My point is that without faith in a higher power, without faith in something beyond science, without faith in something beyond something that's man-made, hell, you know what? I'll even reach out my hand for as much garbage as I've talked about pagans, even if it's nature and Odin. If you truly want to help nature and you want to plant trees, or you want to be like a Penty Linkola, hopefully not to the same extent, but by golly, I'll reach out an olive branch. But if you believe in something higher up beyond science, then that's better than a lot of folks. I'm trying to reach out olive branches without completely going fire and brimstone, because I'm still too much within this secular world. So I can't really go beyond that. And I still have plenty of demons that I will have to deal with. You have to conquer yourself before you conquer others, as they say. But just be aware that this world is cruel. This world does not take it lightly on you. And it will grind you down. And without faith, and without a sense of obligation, what do you have? And I realize that more and more every day. I try to pray. I spent days crying recently. A lot of the times I've held it back for years, but it's just been coming out. Part of it is just shame. There are people who have done worse than me. Let's make sure of that. But it's also just a sense of just realizing my life. And realizing that there's so much more to be done. What I would say is this, though, is the folks who think that everything is going to work out really don't know. The people that, like I say, that there are so many things that are on the verge of collapse that it only takes a couple people who are willing to just grind themselves through whatever it is and say, we're going to get this fixed. Whether it's that, I'm going to go ahead and say it through this means, but whether it's an HVAC technician who's just like, I don't know if we can get this sumbitch running, and they do that one last thing and they get your AC working. Or whether it's the Soviet submariner who said, no, we're not going to launch missiles at the U.S. That was a true story. And that person who's going to say, we got to continue on. History is filled with the collapse of a society. And through a world, the only world that you know, that you've been taught. This world that we've been taught about, going to restaurants, the internet, your anime, your whichever, your hula hoops, and your, that's my old man talk. But that world requires a lot of labor to create. Keeping your AC running, keeping your anime going, through Wi-Fi or whatever. It's a huge labor-intensive system. Peak oil and all this sort of thing. I've been reading John Greer as well. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of people to keep it going. I mean, I've got things from Amazon that I've ordered because I'm just a pitiful addict. But anyway, it takes a lot to keep this system going. And we see that the gears, or the teeth in those gears, are breaking. And they're missing. The teething troubles are there. And they will continue to get worse. Like I say, maybe the further I read in John Michael Greer, I understand his view. And he's very clear-cut in his writing. Talking about peak oil, for example. Talking about that. And peaked around 2005 or even maybe 2010. But we will see a reversal in this system. That this idea of the United States, and this is something I talked about before, and something I've been leery of recently. I do still hold that belief that this country, the idea of the United States, will eventually fade into memory. And I think it will. Localism, a regional identity will return, much as the way it's always been in the United States. It took a lot of energy to create this homogenous society, but it's temporary. It's something that took a lot of energy and took a lot of people that truly believed, a false faith in it. Once that falls, then the regionalism that's always been there and the conflicts and everything else that arose will return. Same thing in any other country. Is that the ethnic tensions are there. Same thing in this country. Good, bad, right or wrong, that is where we are headed, I think. Not necessarily, I'm going to be very careful about my words, but not a collapse. Because I think to a point, this system is far too sophisticated to completely collapse. But I think that there'll be hot spots. It's like Christmas lights, where, especially the old school Christmas lights, where one bulb goes out, the others are still going. And you may have 3 or 4 down the line. That's similar to what the United States will be. Is that there will be glowing lights of what America used to be, and there'll be other areas that will fall into more of a traditional regionalist idea based on religion, based on race, based on what they eat, whichever you want to say, and all those issues. The predictions that some far-right militia is going to take over, it's like, you think that far-right militias are really going to be running around Detroit? No, they're just going to forget about it. Same thing with Chicago, or various parts of Chicago, not the whole city, but no, they'll just be forgotten. It's like, no, we're not going to go there. That's the whole idea of segregation, right? No. You keep them over there. As long as you stay over there, we're not going to mess with that. Why would they want to? Why would you want to go and be outnumbered? Anyways, I know Vosh went for about 40 minutes. I've gone now for about a little over half of that. There are many, many other issues I could talk about, but I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here and just say that you have to open your heart and allow God to guide you. And say, it's out of my hands. You did all you could. But you have to be able to say, okay, and let it happen. The same type of thing with me getting older. I just realize it. I just say, all right, I've accepted it. You don't have certain things. It's like, for me, I don't eat popcorn late at night because it's going to give me heartburn. Or I try to meditate before I go to sleep, just so I can get to sleep. I try to pray. I try to keep laptop off at least an hour beforehand, this and that, so that I can get to sleep. There are other things, but I think I'll wrap it up there. I'm far from a good person. I'm far from being a zealot. Maybe I'm on my way becoming a zealot. Who knows? But you got to have something. You got to have something beyond what mere mortals promote. The idea of freedom or free market, or having some sort of material possession. There's got to be something more. It's got to be. Otherwise, you're just putting your false faith into that. And it will lead you down the path of no return. A lot of awkward pauses here. Let's just go ahead and wrap it up there. Have faith in whatever it is you have faith in, as long as it's not man-made, as long as it's not something that's carnal or something like that, or whatever carnal pleasures there is. And I think that's all you can hope for. That's all I have. Praise be to God. Inshallah. Amitofo, as you would say in Buddhism, or Krishna. I don't know. I'm not gonna judge. Anyway, see you later. Goodbye.